Okay, kids, in this video demonstration, I'm going to be taking you to an introduction of our Onshape software, also known as our CAD software that we're going to be using to learn how to create things in 3D models and also for 3D printing purposes. Okay, so first thing I want to show everybody is in our Google Classroom. You're going to have a folder called Onshape, and in that folder, you're going to see various files. Okay, as well as a link here to get us signed in for the very first time into Onshape. So before I show you that link, I'd like to show you the document that is a PDF right below there. And if you open this document, it's going to have all the shapes that we're going to be creating in Onshape. So I have tutorial videos that are going to be located in a folder that you will be able to follow along with in order to create these shapes in Onshape. So the first thing we want to do is take a look at the overall dimensions of these shapes. And one thing that you're going to notice out of the 12 shapes on this first document here is that they are all based on the same overall dimensions. That means that if you look closely at these, and I will zoom in so we can see them here, they are all going to be the same overall size of 6 inches long. Okay, if you look here, you can see that this dimension here shows that it is 6 inches long, and it is also 2 inches tall, and it's 3 inches deep, as you can see here in the right side view. So if you can imagine there being a piece of material, either wood, metal, plastic, and then we're going to remove sections of that material to end up with the shapes that you see here on the screen. That is basically what we're going to be doing using this CAD program called Onshape. Okay, so let me get back to the Google Classroom. So the next thing that I would like to show everybody is there is a document in here called frequently asked questions. Okay, Onshape frequently asked questions. So if you run into a situation where I'm not around to help you, I've created this document that will most likely have the question you have answered here, because these are the questions that I continuously receive from students. And they're just, basic questions that, hey, something's not working right. What should I do? And if it's not here, I'd be surprised. But if it is, then you can simply scroll down, and they're all numbered based on the questions that are here. And if you go down to the number that you're having a concern with, it will give you a little description and how to resolve that issue. Okay, so that's there for your help needs if you need it. Okay, there's also a rubric in here that explains how you're graded for this assignment. So without further ado, what I'd like to show everybody is this sign-in. And this sign-in is going to be taking us to the Williamsville Central School District's Onshape domain, which means that I can view everybody's work, and you can share things with me. If you're having trouble, I can actually make adjustments and fix it in real time, and then you'll have it updated on yours, since this software is a cloud-based software. Okay, so let's click on the sign-in link. What you're going to do when this link shows up is you are going to sign in using Google. Okay, so you're going to sign in using Google, and it's going to bring up your credentials. Mine are already there because obviously I've signed in before, so it shows up for me. So once you sign in with Google and it asks you to remember your username and password, you're going to want to click yes. Okay. Now, once you sign in, I'm going to recommend that you bookmark this page. If it's showing up here in activity, it's most likely going to be blank on your screen. Just click on where it says documents, and it will take you to the actual home page of the documents for Onshape. Once you get here, I'm going to encourage you to bookmark it on your Chromebook at this point. So I'm going to pause the video. Make sure you do that now. Okay, so now that you have this bookmarked on your Chromebook, on this page is where you're going to find your documents, all the files that you have worked on up to this point. And you can open the files by double-clicking on them here. You can drag them over to the trash. You can also retrieve things if you accidentally deleted them. And so the next thing I'd like to show you is how to start a new document. So if you look up here in the left corner, you'll find a blue Create button. If you click on the Create button, you're going to want to select Document. Okay? Now it's going to ask you right away to name the document. And one thing that we want to do is we want to name the document starting with your last name. And after your last name, you're going to be putting the name of the shape that you're currently working on. So if we look back at that document, the PDF with all the shapes in Google Classroom, every shape has its own name, okay? But for this purpose, since I'm giving you an introductional tour to Onshape, I'm just going to call it Targia Intro to Onshape, okay? And I'm going to hit Create. And what you'll notice is it's going to open up your workspace. So in the center of the screen, what you see here is a front, top, and right sketch plane. Okay, now everything in Onshape works in sketch planes. Okay, so it's almost as if, do you want to draw the shape in the front, the top, or the right? And you're going to be working in one of those three areas, in the front, the top, or the right. And you're going to be drawing things in 2 dimensions or flat, okay, as if it were on a flat piece of paper. And then we're going to be using a very powerful tool in CAD known as Extrude, okay? And that's what allows you to either push or to pull, okay, a shape to make it 3-dimensional, which is what CAD does. It's the power of CAD is to take things from 2D and make it into 3D, okay? So if you're not in a sketch in Onshape, you can't change anything. You can't make a line. You can't change the length of a line. You can't select things. You can't unselect things. So first thing you need to do is to decide where do you want to draw in the front, the top, or the right. And you're going to click on Sketch here. Click on Sketch and select front, top, or right. So in this case, for this particular demonstration, I'm going to select the top. Okay. Now you'll notice that I hovered over the top and I selected it, and you saw this big rectangle that says Sketch 1 show up right on the top view. Okay, that's good. Now let's bring our attention over here to the right side of the screen. And you see this view cube over here where it says front, top, or right. Okay, this allows you to change what you're looking at. So since I started in the top, I'm going to select top. And you notice it changed into a 2-dimensional flat surface, okay? And you'll also notice that the toolbar now changed over to my sketch tools, okay? Because I'm now in a sketch. And you can see it show up here in the left column where it says Sketch 1. So if you ever want to get back into a sketch, you can just come over here to the left column and double click on the sketch, and it will allow you to go back into it. Okay, so in this screen, I can start to show you the tools. So let's take a look up at the top in this toolbar here. Okay, so the first tool that I would like to show is called the line tool. And if you look up at the toolbar, it's the one that looks like a line. And if you hover over these tools, they will actually give you the name of the tool, and in some cases even give you a description of what the tool can do. So on the line tool, if I click on the line tool, and now I am connected to the line tool. If I come over to the center of the screen, here's how the line tool works. Okay, I usually start in the origin where the X and Y axes meet. If I click once, that starts a line. So if I travel to the right, or I can actually go anywhere I want, I'm connected to that first click point. Okay, I just want to go into the direction that I want the line to travel in, and I'm going to click in that direction. Again, the distance does not matter at this point in time, because as soon as you click in the direction, okay, without clicking anywhere else, I'm going to use my keyboard to type in the length. And for this example, I'll just say 3 inches, okay, by typing 3. And then I'm going to hit enter on my keypad. Okay, you can see that the line connects at the end point, and it's exactly 3 inches long, okay? So I'm going to pause the video and allow you to give that a try right now. Okay, hopefully that worked out well for you. So I'm still connected to the end point of that line. Okay, the reason is if I want to continue to draw another line, I can go in any direction from this endpoint, okay? So I want to go up, I can go further to the right, I can go down, I can go anywhere I want. So in this case, I'll just go straight up, and I can see that I'm perpendicular because there's a little perpendicular sign that shows up right there on the screen. So if I go up and I click and say I want to make this distance 2, I'll type 2 on my keypad and then hit enter. And immediately it changes over to 2 inches in length. Okay, so try to draw a few lines and just choose some measurements, keep them small, like under 5 inches, otherwise you'll end up going off your screen. And give that a try. I'm going to double click to end this line, because if you double click, it'll end the line, and notice I'm not connected to it anymore. So give that a try. I'll pause the video to give you a chance to do that now. Okay, the next thing I'd like to just show you real quick is some mouse shortcuts. So the way the mouse works here is the left click is actually the click that you use to make your lines with and use for your tool selections. But if you use the roller of your mouse to roll and you're aiming at a certain spot with your cursor, it'll actually zoom right in on those areas that you want to see. You can get right in there, okay? And then sometimes it's easier to work on things when you do that. So try moving the roller in and out by rolling in and out. And also, if you push the roller down on your mouse, okay, this, if you move left, right, up, or down, that's called the pan tool. That will pan your screen around so that you can move this anywhere you want. If you want to work on an area over here, you want to slide it over here. That's very helpful when you're working on a model that's larger than your screen size. So I'm going to pause again and let you try those mouse functions now. Okay, the next tool I would like to show you is the square tool, okay? It's also known as the corner rectangle tool. So click on the corner rectangle tool, and here's how it's going to work. Your left click starts, okay, a rectangle, and the second time you click will end it. Now, again, the sizes don't really matter while you're extending the size here, because as soon as you make that second click, it's going to ask you what you want the dimensions to be on that rectangle. So the first box, say I want to make it 2 inches, and then it asks you immediately the second box. You do not click in the boxes. You just simply type the dimensions on your keypad and hit enter. So on this side, I'll make it 3 inches. So what I just did is created a rectangle that is 2 by 3 inches. So give that rectangle tool a try and see how it goes. Okay, the next tool is going to be called a center point circle tool. Okay, so if you click on the center point circle tool, okay, same concept. The left click on your mouse will start a circle, and if you extend in a direction, it'll make the circle larger. So the circle is set up for diameter right now. As you can see, the diameter symbol with that line through the 0 before the measurement there. So if you click anywhere, it really, again, does not matter the size, but if I click anywhere, it's going to ask you, what diameter would you like that circle to be? So in this case, I'll just make it a 2-inch diameter circle, hit enter, and it immediately changes to 2-inch diameter circle. Okay, so give that circle tool a try, and we'll go to the next tool. Okay, the next tool is going to be called a 3-point arc, and the way this tool works is it requires 3 clicks. The first click is the one endpoint, the second click is the last endpoint, and the third click actually changes the radius and the distance of the arc itself. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom into the corner of this rectangle here, And I'm going to use a line tool to make a mark along this line. If I click on the corner here and I extend this way to the right and I click again and I say 1 inch, it'll extend a line at 1 inch. Okay. Um, if I want to make another line, I can either click on the line to get off of that one, click back on the line tool, and then click back on it. In most cases, the escape key will release any tool that you are currently using and allow you to select something else. For this demonstration purpose, I am not able to do that because Screencastify uses the escape key for a secondary purpose and takes it over, so I'm not able to do that. But on your keypad, you should be able to use escape to exit the tool that you're currently on. So I just made a line 1 inch here, and I will use another line going down this direction, again, 1 inch, enter. So now I have two lines, and I'm going to click off the line tool to get off of there, and now I'll use that 3-point arc tool. So you can either make a concave arc. Here's my first click on this endpoint. I'll make this my second click. So you can either make a concave curve or a convex curve outward, okay? And you'll see that you can change the radius of this curve after you're done. So this is 1 inch here. So say, for example, I want it to be 1 inch, but I only clicked it here. Right away, I would type in 1, hit enter, and it will automatically make that radius 1 inch, and it automatically puts a leader line and a radius measure on there. So why don't you, I'll pause the video, you try out the 3-point arc tool at this time. Okay, great, good job on the arc tool. The next tool I'd like to show everybody is called a spline tool. A spline tool really comes in handy, especially when you're working with an image or an irregular shape that you want to follow the contours of that you can't do with just a straight line or a rectangle or even an arc or a circle for that matter. Okay, so the way that the spline tool works is you're going to start with a click, okay? And every time you click, it's going to follow the shape of whatever it is you're trying to make, or in some case, trace. To end a spline, okay, to end a spline, you have to double click your left mouse. So click, click ends the spline, okay? Notice that it's not connected to anything else. One endpoint is here, the other is here. So if I want to make another spline and actually connected, I have to make sure that I am on this endpoint. And that's going to be very critical during later projects when we're trying to recreate images. So I'm going to make sure I'm on this endpoint. I'm going to click again, and I'm actually starting a secondary spline off of the first one. So what I want to do is I want to click, click, click all the way back to the original starting point. And when I get there, instead of just doing a single click, I will double click, okay? Ooh, you'll notice that it turned gray. It turned gray because it's an enclosed figure, okay? That's an enclosed figure. Now, I think now would be a good time for you to try that spline tool, and then I have another surprise for you right after that. So I'll pause the video and give you an opportunity to try that. Okay, now that you've tried the spline tool, along with the 3-point arc tool, the circle tool, the rectangle tool, and the line tool, you'll notice that some of these things are shaded in with a grayish color. That indicates that there's no gaps in there, there's no openings. And that is what is necessary to be able to extrude something. So in a situation like this where I have 3 lines, okay, there's an opening here. There's nothing here to push or to pull. It's a series of lines with an open-ended portion here. So in this case, you'll notice that it's shaded in gray. Same thing with the circle, and the same thing with my spline tool example. So one thing I'm going to do now is show you how to extrude something, okay? And before I extrude, I'm going to show you this drop-down camera box here that allows you to go back to the isometric view that we started in. Okay, and that takes us back to the screen that it looked like when we first opened our workspace. So what I can do now is I can click on one of these surfaces. Notice when I clicked on this surface, it did not select the outer shell of the curve or the arc because they're separate now. I can select it if I want to, but for this example, I'm going to leave it out. So here's how the Extrude tool works. Very powerful tool. It is the first tool in the toolbar. You're going to click on Extrude. Okay, a little Extrude box shows up with a depth window. The depth is telling it how far do you want to push or pull it. Okay, there's also selections here to add a new extrusion, add to an existing extrusion. I can remove it. If I remove it, it's going to go the other direction. That is not something that's able to happen now, which is why it turns red. So if it turns red, that indicates that you're probably on the wrong selection, okay? So you can either click on this arrow to go in the other direction, but it's still on a remove, isn't it? So what I want to do is go back to new, okay? And then I can click on this arrow and bring it either up or down. Now, the default distance is 1 inch, but I can change that to anything I want. I can make it 4.5 for 4.5 inches. If I make it 4.5 inches, look what just happened. It made it, stuck it straight up 4.5 inches. Now I can go back and change that to say 3 inches and it'll automatically adjust, or 2 inches, okay? Whatever I want it to be, once it takes effect, to make it final, I need to click on this green check mark. If you do not click on the green check mark, it will not finalize, okay? So I click on the green check mark and now I have this object here. But everything else just disappeared. Why? Because I am no longer in the sketch. To get back in the sketch, I have to go back over to my left column, find sketch 1, and double click in the sketch. Double click. Okay, now I'm back in the sketch. So let's give the circle a try, and even the spline tool drawing that I made. I'm going to extrude those at any given length, and I'm going to pause the video and allow you to do the same. And then when I come back, we can see what we've done. Go right ahead. Okay, hopefully that worked for you. And as you can see, I extruded the circle and also the spline tool. And if you right-click on your mouse, okay, if you right-click on your mouse, you can actually move your mouse around and your objects will orbit. So you can look underneath them, you can look above them, rotate them around to see all around the shapes that you've created. And that's another powerful tool too. So you can use the right-click to orbit. You can push the roller down, left and right to pan, and use the roller to zoom in, okay? And don't forget, if you ever get lost or, oh, I'm really far away and I can't see the things I'm working on, you can always click on this camera and go back to isometric view, and it will bring you back to where you started from, okay? Or you can go back to the view cube, click on front, top, or right, and it'll bring it back to the above view like you had before. Okay. Give that a shot and we'll see how those functions work for you. Okay, so far so good. The next tool I'd like to show everybody is this trim tool. Now a trim tool, what I did to get back here on this view is I just double clicked on sketch 1. So if you're not back in your sketch, you can do that in a moment. When I have you try the trim tool. So the trim tool is a way to snip away parts of a drawing that you no longer need or were just used as a reference. For example, those lines that I created that were 1 inch long to make my 3-point arc, I don't really need those lines. So you'll notice when you're selected on the trim tool, something will light up in yellow or orange, whatever that color is. You can then select it and it will clip it off. It will delete it for you, okay? I can even trim away the outside of this arc. There. Now, since I've created the arc, I may not need that outer corner, and my trim tool will eliminate that for me. So give that trim tool a try, and then we'll move on to the next tool. Okay, the next tool that you might have to use is known as an offset tool. So an offset tool takes a certain distance from another line or object. So for example, if I wanted to offset this radius here of 1 inch, okay, I can click on that and it defaults at 0.25 inches, okay? But after I click on it, I can change that to anything, okay? So I will hit enter and then it'll ask you, what do you want that offset to be? So I can even type in a fraction or a decimal into the box. Again, do not click in the box. It automatically allows you to change the size. So once you make that click for the offset, um, if I wanted to select multiple lines, I could do that too. See, I could even change the direction of the offset. And then what I would do is type in, say, for example, 1/8 of an inch, like so, and then hit enter on my keypad, and that line would come back to 1/8 of an inch. Now this one, what I can do is unselect that tool and it will ask me to change the length. Again, 1/8 or 1/8 of an inch, hit enter, and it will bring it down and match it right up with that. So there is a couple situations where you might want to use that tool, and just in case you do, now you know how. So give that a try. Give the offset tool a try and see how that goes. Okay, one little side note, if you ever want to see the length of a line that's not being shown, there is a dimension tool here that if you clicked on it, you can dimension various things like so. All you need to do is click on a line and extend it out, and your second click will pop out the dimension. And if you ever want to change the length of a line, all you need to do here is to make sure that you're unselected on all your tools by either hitting escape or clicking back on the tool to get off of it. You can double click on a dimension like so, and then it lights up and you can change that length with your keypad. So from 3 to a 4, if I hit enter, it will change the length of that line. Now obviously that changes a lot more, so I might not want to do that, but there's a good thing here, okay? There is also a back arrow at the top left corner of your Onshape screen. So if you hit the back arrow, okay, it'll go back to the last step you created. And you can do that as long as you're in the sketch that you were currently working on. Okay, if you're not in the sketch, the arrow will not be available to you. Okay, now we went through Extrude. We've gone through the line tool, the rectangle tool, the circle tool, the 3-point arc tool, the spline tool, the trim tool, offset tool, dimension tool. Okay, there's one more tool that I'd like to show you, and in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finalize sketch 1 by clicking on the green check mark. Now I'm going to make a new sketch, but I'm going to make a sketch right on the surface of this object here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select sketch, and then I'm going to move over to this surface. I'm not going to choose front, top, or right this time. I'm going to choose this actual surface here as my sketch plane. So when I click on it, it actually makes a sketch 2 box right on that surface. Okay. Now I just want to do this so I can show you the text tool. This allows you to make text, and by clicking once, you're going to drag a box, just like a text box in any other program you might have used in the past. And then you're going to type in what you want it to say. In this case, I'll have it say, I'll just have it say Targia. And one thing you want to keep in mind is when you're choosing a font for your text, you're going to want to choose something like Robo Slab, and you're going to want to also make it bold. And the reason for that is when we 3D print something, okay, if we 3D print something with letters that are so fine and narrow, the quality of the print is just simply not going to be there. It's going to want to crack off. It's not going to look right. So you want it to be as bold and thick and durable as possible, okay? Now, you'll notice that my name is way too big for this surface, okay? So the way to fix that is to take your dimension tool, come on over to your text so that the top line highlights. You're going to click on it, extend that dimension up, and right now it's at 3.22. So if I say, I want it to be about a third of that. So I'm just going to say 1 inch, okay, and then hit enter. Okay, you'll notice that the name changed, but now it's not where I want it to be. So I need to use something called a transform tool. So if I click on this drop down arrow, there's a transform tool. Okay, if I click on transform and then zoom in and click on the name, and I grab this square in the middle, I can then move this box anywhere I want to, okay? And when I'm happy with where it's located, I'm going to hit the green check mark. And you'll notice that it shows up there now, okay? Now, what's neat about the text tool is you can select it and you can extrude it, okay? Now, if I extruded that 1 inch, that would be really silly and it would probably crack off really easily. So we want to extrude letters at a very minimal amount, something like a 32nd of an inch, 1/32. Hit enter and hit the green check mark. And look at that. You'll see my name show up on the surface there, okay? All right. So give that a try and see how that goes. Okay, so hopefully you figured out the text tool. If not, you can always rewind this video and watch that portion again and give it another try. Okay, so you can always, again, go back to your view camera and go back to isometric so you see things like so. Now, one more thing that I want to mention is when you're done with your document and you want to go back to the document screen, the home page, if you notice in the top left corner of your screen, there's a green Onshape logo and it says Onshape next to it. You can click on that and it'll take you right back to the documents page. Or these 3 lines that you see next to there, next to the name of your document. If you click on those 3 lines, you can either rename the document here, or you can actually copy the whole workspace and name it something else so it doesn't impact the version that you have already created. Okay, so in this case, I just want to show you how to go back to the main screen, and that is by clicking on the Onshape. Takes you back to the main screen. Okay, now if you ever go back to the main screen and you do not see your model there, don't panic. This is a cloud-based program. It usually takes a few minutes for that to show up on the thumbnail sketch so that you can see what you have created. Okay, so with that said, congratulations on getting your introduction to Onshape, and the next thing is to dive right into creating the shapes that we have in class. Good luck. Thank you.